When Volkswagen first introduced the original Tiguan to America back in 2008, they were pretty late to the compact SUV party. Now, the original model didn't resonate well with American shoppers because it was too small on the inside and too expensive compared to most of its rivals. Now, Volkswagen followed it up with a second generation, significantly increasing the interior space, but at the same time, they lost enthusiast buyers because the car was less powerful and it was also far less sporty to drive when the road got curvy. Well, for 2025, Volkswagen is hoping to attract even more buyers into the showrooms with this model. This is the fully redesigned third generation Tiguan. As you can see, it's built on their latest MQB Evo architecture. It has more power under the hood along with a pretty significant weight reduction. And on the interior, we have one of the biggest screens that you're going to find with a 15-inch tablet available on the top trim. So today we're actually out here in Bozeman, Montana on this rather gloomy, rainy day because we're finally able to drive the all-new 2025 Tiguan. And the big question I went into, has Volkswagen finally managed to make enough changes to attract even more shoppers into VW dealerships? Stay tuned to find out. Now, I want to apologize in advance for the weather conditions in case you guys see like a raindrop on your screen. That's because it's raining and kind of cold here in Bozeman. But before we start talking about the exterior styling changes, let me go ahead and show you guys what's going on underneath the hood. Now, Volkswagen is trying to return back to their more premium roots. And that starts the moment I lift the hood because, as you can see, the hood is actually supported by struts as opposed to a prop rod. The previous generation had a prop rod, and it just, again, showed off its cost-cutting measures that Volkswagen was trying to take. They're definitely trying to reverse that, but let's go ahead and talk about what's going on underneath here because the previous generation Tiguan also had a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. This is also a 2-liter turbo. However, it's now in its 5th generation. It's called the Evo 5. It's still the EA 888 motor, but this engine also gets a pretty nice power boost. So the 2-liter now makes 201 horsepower. That's up 17 ponies versus the previous generation. And torque, you actually get 2 different torque figures. If you guys go for a front-wheel drive model, you'll have 207 pound-feet. This all-wheel drive version increases the torque to 221, which is actually the same torque that we had last year. It all goes out through an 8-speed automatic transmission. You can take your pick between either front-wheel drive or the company's 4Motion all-wheel drive system, which is an extra $1,500. It's included on some of the higher trims. This particular one that we're showing you here has the 4Motion all-wheel drive system. Now, fuel economy is rated at 22 in the city and 30 on the highway, about 25 combined. It's about a 1 mpg improvement over the previous generation, so it's not a lot, but I have to say that the increase in the power certainly is going to give this car better acceleration along with the decrease in the weight. Now, if you guys want more power for 2026, there's actually a turbo version, which all of them are turbo, that ups the power to 268. That's a separate review. We won't be driving that today, but this powertrain should be, much quicker versus the previous generation. You have a top speed of around 124 miles an hour. And this vehicle has around a 15.5-gallon fuel tank. You're looking at around 400 miles of range on a full tank that is on regular grade gas. Now, towing capacity has also been improved to around 1,800 pounds, which is definitely not the most in the segment, but it's around 300 pounds more versus the previous generation. And like I said earlier, the curb weight has been reduced by almost 200 pounds. So as this model sits, it weighs in at around 3,800 pounds, which should, again, significantly improve the acceleration. We'll talk about that when we get the vehicle out on the road. Now, let's go ahead and close up the hood here and talk about the exterior styling, because I think Volkswagen has done a phenomenal job with making this vehicle look a lot like a baby Touareg. If you guys remember the old Touareg, it was like a luxury SUV. It was introduced back in 2004. I see a lot of Touareg and even Audi vibes in the design. This particular one that we're showing you here is the fully loaded SEL R-Line trim. For 2026, it'll be called the SEL R-Line Turbo to show that it has the more powerful engine. But in this avocado green exterior color, if you can sort of see it because it's kind of overcast and gross out here, it certainly looks good with the lines. You can see the SEL R-Line includes some upgrades to the headlights. So these are their IQ Light full LED headlights, which have a swiveling adaptive feature. You also have an LED daytime running light and turn signal. You have the full length LED light bar that you can see goes across the front end along with the illuminated Volkswagen logo. That illuminated logo is only on the SEL R-Line trim, so keep that in mind. If you guys go for the lower trims, you won't have the illuminated logo. Down here in the lower front bumper, you can see there are some functional air intake openings. A lot of black here, a lot of gloss black. It kind of contrasts a little bit with the avocado green, but I do appreciate the kind of silver metallic accent that you get in the front lip spoiler or the front lip area of the vehicle. Volkswagen says you have a little over 7 inches of ground clearance with this model. So not a lot of ground clearance. It kind of leaves room for the company to do a peak edition at some point, which they have not confirmed nor denied that. But overall, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the design of the vehicle. I think it looks a lot better. It looks more masculine, more aggressive, more premium. and it really just shows off that Volkswagen's trying to become more of a mainstream premium brand, which is kind of what made them so successful back in the 2000 era. And moving around the side profile, the new Tiguan is actually a little bit smaller than the previous generation. So it rides on the same 109.9-inch wheelbase with an overall length of around 184.4. It's around 1.5 inches shorter versus the old model, and that again helps to make this vehicle a little bit lighter. It gives it better proportions, I think, because the old one was a little bit too long, even for the compact mainstream SUV segment. You can see the wheels. If you guys go for the SE R-Line Black or this SEL R-Line, you'll get a 20-inch wheel. So Volkswagen offers a choice between either an 18-inch wheel all the way up to a 20. It's riding on a Pirelli Scorpio Zero all-season tire, and it's a 255 by 40 R20. So that's actually a pretty massive wheel. Considering, you know, the class of vehicle. Most competitors top out at 19-inch wheels. I love the design of these wheels. I apologize again for how dirty they are, but I think it fills out the wheel wells nicely. The brakes are 13.4-inch rotors at the front, 11.8 at the rear. If you guys wait for 2026 for the turbo version, the brakes actually get a little bit larger. They're upgraded, of course, to give you more power. You have an all-independent suspension, but no adaptive air suspension or dampers. Again, there's a reason why Volkswagen has Audi, their luxury brand, to kind of give you even more of those high-end features. You can see the wheel arch trim here is black, gloss black painted, which you can't really see right now in the rain. The mirrors are also gloss black. They're power folding with integrated turn signals, full 360 camera, and their IQ Drive full driver assistance tech. You can see my test car also has the black roof, which looks good with the avocado green along with the silver accents that you get for the roof rails. That panoramic glass sunroof is also standard. It's standard if you guys go for the SE R-Line Black, and this trim optional on the base SE, I believe, as part of an a la carte option. I also like how this kind of like this dark chrome kind of goes over into the D-pillar of the vehicle, D-pillar area of the vehicle. And then looking at the rear, you can see the design certainly looks a lot more tasteful. You have the usual design cues here that are very trendy. The taillights, as you can see, are full LEDs. Even the turn signal and the reverse lights are LEDs. You have that full LED light bar. And then again, if you go for the SEL R-Line trim, you have the illuminated rear Volkswagen logo, which I think gives this car a very premium light signature. I love how VW is doing that feature. There are a couple of other, things here, like all the badging back here. It says SEL. Now again, the 2026 model will say SEL Turbo if you guys go for the top trim for 2026. The rear bumper, I don't love these fake vents that you see in the rear bumper. I think it could have looked better. I think if Volkswagen had chopped this off and just given us a full paint area here with maybe some silver accents on the lower rear diffuser area. No visible exhaust tips, although I think the SEL R-Line Turbo for 2026 has that. And then you can see the rear spoiler is pretty a usual size. It has the rear brake light. I would have liked it if Volkswagen would have hid the rear wiper underneath that, but again, those are small little details that they could have done, but it's not really a deal breaker for me. Looking at the cargo area, you can see the trunk capacity is pretty much what it was last year, although Volkswagen didn't have final numbers for us as of this filming. Now, as you guys saw, a power liftgate, which has hands-free functionality, is standard on this trim, and the old model had around 38 cubic feet of storage space. Again, I don't have the final figures just yet, but this is pretty generous. Especially when you look at how a lot of vehicles in this class have a lot of space. You can see underneath the floor, there is a temporary spare tire along with additional storage, which is nice. You also have a little bit of storage to the side. If you want to fold down the seats, Volkswagen also includes release handles back here. And if you take out this cargo cover, the old model had around 73 cubic feet of space, so I imagine this new version should have pretty similar numbers, because if you look at the competitive set, most of them have between like 65 to 75 cubic feet, so I would say this car's cargo capacity is probably smack in the middle of all of its competitors. Now on the outside, I think Volkswagen nailed the exterior design, but on the interior, this is where the company again is going to show you that you don't necessarily need to get an Audi to get a really luxurious feeling cabin, especially if you guys go for the SEL R-Line trim. You can see my particular test car has the actual real leather and this kind of brown, black, and gray contrast two-tone design to it. It has this really interesting kind of diamond quilted like stitching here with the contrast piping and stitching. These seats adjust in 8 different ways, and you also have a 4-way lumbar support here on the driver's side. The seats are also heated, ventilated, and get this, massaging. You don't find massaging seats in this particular class of vehicle. You can't even get massaging seats in the redesigned Audi Q5. So the fact that Volkswagen is putting massaging seats in a Tiguan really shows you that they're serious about attracting, that enthusiast back into the brand. And the heated and cooled seat with the massaging, you have to go for the SEL R-Line trim. All other Tiguans come standard, however, with either a cloth or a leatherette with heated seats. So again, that's a really nice touch. Now, getting inside the vehicle, you can see with that 7.5 inches of ground clearance or so, it has a really nice, easy step-in height. As I shut the door, The door has a nice solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built on the updated MQB Evo architecture. Now, looking at the key fob, you can see this is Volkswagen's latest intelligent access key. It's a really nice size. It feels really sturdy. I don't love the piano black because, as you can see, it shows scratches all over it pretty quickly. But you do have remote start, lock, power liftgate, unlock, and then a panic function on the key. It feels pretty high quality as well, so I like what Volkswagen has done. And when you want to start the vehicle up, the start-stop button is right here next to this little rotary dial. Push that, you can hear the engine is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, so it has a very traditional starter noise along with the usual Volkswagen chimes. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, how could you not notice this right here? This is the 15-inch MIB4 infotainment system. So all of them come with the MIB4 infotainment system, but only the SEL R-Line gives you the 15-inch display. The lower trims have the slightly smaller 12.9-inch display. It's the same one that we've shown you guys in a Volkswagen ID Buzz, but the 15-inch tablet is definitely among the biggest in the industry. Really, I just drove the GMC Terrain. That also has a 15-inch tablet, but it's oriented in a portrait style. This is the landscape style, and it also has their latest software with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You can see, look how big the icons are. They just work really nice. They're easy to see, easy to maneuver and navigate. And the software behind it, there's a home button there. It's just a lot quicker than before. So Volkswagen has really been working hard to make their interiors in terms of the software much better. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Now, looking at the door panels, you can see high quality materials. There's a soft touch injection molded plastic with some faux stitch. This right here is like a piece of plastic that has an illuminated ambient lighting in the actual trim piece. There's also a silver painted door handle here, nice padded leather here and here, and you can see the windows. They are one touch for the driver and one touch for the rear windows. So one touch for all four, along with your power folding mirrors. Your three-person memory is going to be located here on the actual seat. You also have the controls here. And then there's also a button here that you can push in the center that basically activates the massage function. There's like 5 different types of massage, and it's a really good massage, not that cheap stuff like you can see over here. The massage basically gives you all of these different options. Actually, I feel like it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of massages, and you can also change the intensity, the duration you can also change. So this is all unexpected. It's typically found in luxury vehicles, and you can't even get the massage in an Audi Q5, which I find to be really perplexing. Now, looking at the steering wheel, you can see this is their latest steering wheel with the flat bottom design, the R-Line logo. I like how Volkswagen has given back actual hard buttons as opposed to the touch sensitive buttons. There's your heated steering wheel button over here. The wheel itself has a manual tilt and telescoping feature. No paddles on the wheel, however. I can't remember if the Turbo for 2026 has the paddle shifters, so I'll have to double check that. But you have your gear selector over here now, which kind of frees up space in the center console. If I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full 360 camera, the top-down view camera. That's standard on the SEL R-Line trims. It gives you a really nice trajectory. It gives you pretty decent graphics as well. You have cross-traffic braking, parking sensors, so it also has their automatic parallel park feature as well. So that again brings the Tiguan up to, you know, much higher levels of technology. In fact, the old model topped out at 8 inches, so this is nearly twice the size. You also have a 10.25-inch instrument panel here, which is slightly customizable. I can basically push this view button here and kind of go to a different display. You also have a heads-up display, which is pretty nice. Some competitors don't even offer that. The dashboard, as you can see, has a soft touch injection molded plastic with some faux stitch. You have the same panel that has the illuminated ambient lighting, and this is actually genuine walnut trim. So again, you don't typically find real wood and massaging seats and all this real leather in a mainstream car. So Volkswagen is really throwing on the value with this vehicle. Again, there's some quick vehicle favorites that you can access here. Your drive mode selector is here. There's an Eco, Comfort, Sport, Custom, Off-Road, and a Snow. So again, there's no adaptive dampers, I believe, on this car, but it's nice how Volkswagen gives you all the different choices. There's also this atmosphere ability here where you can change basically the theme of the interior, where if you start cycling through, you can go to like a lounge, a joy, nature, energetic. It actually changes the LED lighting in the car, and it also will change your music settings. That's what Volkswagen says. And you can also go into an inactive mode. So this is something that I would be interested to try in a later date. You actually have this little dial here where you can control the volume if you'd like, or you can also just adjust your drive mode selector, which is great. And then you can also swipe here and go to change your lounge, your atmosphere. So this is all pretty cool. I like how Volkswagen, again, is giving us an actual knob, which is interchangeable with a screen in there. It was kind of an unexpected touch, so it shows that VW is really listening to customer complaints and whatnot. You can see the climate control function here is all located in the screen where you can adjust it there. There's also a smart climate function where you can literally just tell it what you want it to do, which is great. There's also a clean air mode because there's an air filtration in the car, which helps to filter out pollen and unwanted things into the cabin. There's also heated and cooled seats. Like I said, they are in the screen, but Volkswagen allows you to turn on the heat and ventilation function individually or at the same time, which is pretty nice. There's also a triple zone climate control. So there's dual zone that's standard on all trims. This trim adds the triple zone in the rear, which we'll show you guys that later on. But overall, if you want to go to the GPS function there, you can see there's the built-in embedded navigation, but most of you are probably going to go to the GPS here and then just pull up Google Maps. You can see Google Maps looks fantastic here, and it's all very quick and snappy, so love what Volkswagen has done there. Now looking at the rest of the center stack, you can see there is some piano black plastic, which is not my favorite, but there's an electronic parking brake here, cup holders, of course. I am surprised that there's no cover that kind of covers this up, but again, it provides all that additional storage. Big storage area here where my iPhone 16 Pro Max sits there with 2 USB-C charging ports. This armrest also allows you to kind of adjust the angle and slide it forward and back, along with having some additional storage there. You can also take this out and reveal a deeper storage area. So that's all very nice in terms of flexibility. It's a very important feature for a lot of people in this class. The seats are also very comfortable and supportive. I love the real leather. They hold you in place nicely. The massage function works really well, as good as any other luxury brand. And then the glove box, as you can see, is damped but not lined with felt. It's a bin style. It adds a lot of additional coverage space. My particular test car has the 12-speaker Harman Kardon sound. This is the only trim to get the Harman Kardon. All the other ones will have a 7-speaker Volkswagen branded stereo. If you're an audiophile, I highly recommend going for this particular trim. And then above me here, you can see there's a woven material along with a panoramic glass roof. It's standard on the SE R-Line black trims and up. It goes all the way into the second row. It does open to vent air, but I'm not going to do it right now because it's raining. And there's also a retractable shade if you guys don't want the sun to beat down on you. So overall, as you can see, the interior definitely feels like, to me, class leading in terms of tech, in terms of luxury, in terms of build quality. So it really just shows that Volkswagen was listening carefully. I will say that the dash is a little bit high, so it does impute on your visibility. It takes a little bit of getting used to. But let's go ahead and hop into the backseat area. I can show you guys what that is like really quick. Now, as you can see, the first generation Tiguan had a really tiny back seat. The second generation, Volkswagen made it so much larger that it had among the biggest back seats in the segment. This new version is actually even bigger. Volkswagen says you have around 40 inches of legroom back here, which is actually 2 more inches versus the old model. So this is among the best in the segment. However, what you did lose, because there's no more third row in this car, is the ability to recline the seats and slide them forward and back. You can still fold them down to create a flat load space, of course, but the old Tiguan allowed you to slide the seat forward and back because of the third row. That's not really necessary anymore, so I'm kind of okay with them getting rid of that feature. Now, getting back here, I apologize again for how dirty the floor mats are. It's just gross out here. As I shut the door has the same solid sounding thunk. Unfortunately, there are some hard touch materials here on the upper door panel, so not quite as nice as the front seat area. There's no LED ambient lighting here, but there's also silver painted plastic. There's a little bit down here that's only on this trim. The speaker here, as you can see, is branded Harman Kardon. It's nice and padded here, along with some hard touch plastic with some additional storage over there. The floor area, as you can see, there's not a flat floor here, but I can easily cross my legs. I can easily stretch out here, so there's a ton of leg room. This is essentially where I'd have the seat to drive. I also have rear seat air vents, 3-level heated seats back here. That's only on this trim, along with 2 USB-C charging ports. And there's, as you can see, the screen for the third climate control zone, which is, again, an unexpected feature. If I fold this down, you can see there's an armrest with 2 cup holders. And then in terms of the headroom space, even though this sunroof does take up some room, I actually have a decent maybe 2 inches of additional clearance. So if you guys plan to use this as a family vehicle and you're coming from the old model, Volkswagen has preserved the best-in-class rear seat legroom. I think that's gonna be a big selling factor for a lot of families. So here we are finally behind the wheel of the all-new third generation Tiguan. And as you can see, I am joined by my good friend Tommy from the Fast Lane Car, or TFL. Tommy, we actually haven't done a video together in a while. Can you remember when the last time it was?
It's been so long.
I want to say it's at least 6 months. I think it was the Genesis GV80 drive.
Oh, you're right.
In Texas, which was like back in October, if I remember correctly. So it's good to see you, Tommy, and thank you for joining us today as we drive the new Tiguan. What do you think of it so far, like your impressions, Tommy?
Well, thanks for having me, Sofyan. I really like the interior on this Volkswagen. I think that it's a really up-class place to spend time, especially when you get one like this one with the contrasting piping and stitching.
Yeah, so this one is the SEL R line. Although it's technically not the highest trim, they just showed that for 2026 with the turbo badge, Tommy, because they just want to confuse us like Porsche does. So this model that we're driving has the base engine. It's their 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder making 201 horsepower and 221, I think, foot-pounds of torque, yeah. Hooked up to an 8-speed auto. I have to say, Tommy, how many times did you drive the previous generation?
Like 100.
100 times, yeah. I mean, that car was a good car, but it was slow, to be honest here. And it lost a lot of the Volkswagen like spunkiness, especially when you put your foot down because it was sluggish. The handling wasn't quite like GTI like. This new version is now in the MQB Evo architecture, and when I put my foot down here, it's fine.
Yeah, it's very adequate. You know, you kind of get like a nice shove of torque lower in the RPM range. The only complaint I have about the acceleration is I find the transmission to be like a little lazy.
Okay.
Like it's a little slow to kind of respond. You know?
I could see that.
But the great thing about this 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo they use and everything, it's very consistent, right? It's very predictable, and it always will get you down the road with a pretty good, you know, confidence that you're going to be able to pass when you need to pass.
I mean, this thing is definitely not supposed to be like a sporty car per se, but I think that the increase in power they gave it this year, I think it's like 17 horsepower or so. The torque is the same, but they also, Tommy, reduced the weight by like 200 pounds almost.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, because the old one was among the heaviest in the segment, so that's definitely going to improve the efficiency, which they claim up to 30 mpg, although it's not the best. There's still no hybrid, which Volkswagen, actually, I think Mark confirmed that there is a hybrid coming at some point last night. I think that's what he said at dinner, but no official confirmation from Volkswagen, but I'm imagining they're going to be working on one because that's kind of where the industry is headed, is hybrid.
Yeah, I mean, and I would even take it a step farther and say Volkswagen should do a plug-in hybrid, right? You know, the plug-in hybrid RAV4 has been such a big seller for Toyota, and it really kind of expands the bandwidth of what you can do with the car, with being able to run it affordably if you live in the city and, you know, you have a house to plug it in at home. I just think that's such a cool feature that Volkswagen's missing out on. Yeah.
So as we find these curves here, Tommy, I have to say this car feels pretty softly sprung. I know you haven't. I know you drove it yesterday, but we're gonna switch later on, and he's gonna get behind the wheel on these curvy roads. It definitely doesn't feel like a GTI, but at the same time, I think it's going to appeal to its target audience. The steering is actually pretty quick, but there's no feedback. But the suspension feels really soft. You can literally feel the body lean every time you turn the wheel. But most vehicles in the class are kind of like that too. The one thing I'm noticing though is this engine is actually pretty smooth. It's a smooth and decent sounding engine because, like, I'm thinking about some of the naturally aspirated engines that are just really, really sluggish. But we are also sitting here at elevation at almost 5,000 feet, and I have 2 people in the car, so that's kind of weighing the vehicle down a little bit. So sadly, my 0 to 60 timer is not working with all of the clouds and everything out here. But I did want to just come to a stop and just do a quick little start or acceleration from a dig here and see what it's like.
Sophian, we need to select the right atmosphere. We got to go to Joy. Where are they?
Experience? Driving mode. There we go. I think we're in sport.
Okay. Okay, go for it.
Definitely doesn't have the fire of like the GTIs we drove last month, does it?
Not really, but like I think for someone in this category, it's probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
Right? And if you do want more, there is that 268 horsepower version coming.
Right.
With the turbo.
Yeah, and that's essentially the same output, Tommy, that we get in the Audi Q5. Your dad just drove and saw that vehicle, I think, last week with me, although we were on separate events. But that's kind of surprising because usually the Tiguan has always had a lot less power. So now Volkswagen has kind of caught up there. Now we do have a different transmission than the Audi, and technically I can't talk about how the Audi drives. There's an embargo until next month on that. But I did, Tommy, just drive the new GMC Terrain, which arguably was around $45,000. It was more expensive than this, and I find this car to be much more appealing. I don't know if you had a chance to drive the Equinox or the Terrain yet.
I've driven the Equinox, and I think that, I mean, what Volkswagen has done a really good job with, and I keep coming back to it, it's just like the interior fit and finish.
Yeah.
Feels really premium. I love the wood that kind of makes its way across the dash here, and some of the perforation in the steering wheel and in the seats. It's just a great place to spend time, except please bring back the buttons.
Oh, you don't like the buttonless center console area?
There's no buttons at all.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how that will take some getting used to. At least, Tommy, they made these sliders illuminated, because remember when this infotainment system first came out, you couldn't see anything at night.
Like on the ID4s.
Right,
yeah.
and unfortunately, we do still have the slider button here, or the slider for the volume, but we do have this, what did they call this again? It was like
multi-function knob.
It was the interaction dial or something, because you can actually customize that to function as your drive mode selector, your atmosphere selector, which will change the interior color in here, the ambient lighting, and apparently the music as well. So that's kind of a cool touch. It almost looks like an Apple Watch too in the center stack there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool feature, and you still get the volume knob there. You also have, Tommy, actual buttons here. I know, which is something we just saw in the new GTI, but not the Golf R, which still had the touch sensitive buttons.
Yeah, it's great that they've got like the little clicky clackies instead of the little touch pads on the steering wheel.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes it a little bit more user-friendly. And then in terms of the rest of the drive here, like, I think the ride quality is actually pretty decent.
It's really quiet?
Yeah, it's very quiet, refined, very Audi-like. It reminds me of when Volkswagen's, Tommy, used to feel like the budget poor man Audi.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's actually a great point. It does feel very kind of Audi-esque in here, the whole vibe.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great thing, because Volkswagens were heavily criticized in the 2000 era for being, cost-cutting. They're trying to appeal to American buyers, but I think with this model, I think they've kind of nailed that balance. They're still going to attract those big families with the big back seat, the decent-sized trunk, the comfortable ride, and then in terms of the sportiness, while this model here isn't really the the sportiest version, that turbo version that's coming with the extra power, the bigger brakes, I think that could be the sweet spot, especially if you guys are trying to come out of a GTI because you need more space.
You know what the problem with the turbo one is, though? The name. So this is the Volkswagen SEL R line.
Yes.
Turbo.
They're all turbos.
And then that's the Volkswagen SEL R line. Turbo!
Right.
Why not call it the R? Right? Just get rid of the R line and just call it the R.
Right, or they could have just maybe even called it a Turbo S, like it just taken it from Porsche again.
Yes, so. Or like a Tiguan GTI, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's room for it, because if you think about, GTI owners, they eventually need to move up and get something more spacious. And while this car at least comes a little closer to it versus the second generation, the base powertrain definitely needs that extra boost in power. So
you just like going too fast, Sophian.
Maybe I do. Yeah. I mean, at the same time, though, I like to have enough power to pass somebody who's going really slow and not have to sit there and go, I don't have enough power to pass this person.
Listen, as a classic Beetle lover, if you can do 70 miles an hour, that's all the power you'll ever need.
Okay, that's a fair argument for sure.
You do bring up a good point, though. My one big suggestion on this car is I would probably get the SE.
Okay.
Right, save a little bit of money, and then get the slightly smaller wheel. I think will help with some of the smaller imperfections in the ride quality.
Yep.
And then I would say step up to the all-wheel drive.
Yes.
Even if you don't need it, because the all-wheel drive actually gets more torque.
Yes.
And you get a beefier transmission. So for longevity, that always seems like a good thing. So I think it's like a $1,500 step up to all-wheel drive.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Just do it. Even if you're in Florida or California, whatever, you don't think you'll need it. It helps with resale, and it's just going to provide a better experience.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I could actually get a 0 to 60 time. So what I actually did is I switched into an SE trim level. This is technically the SE with front wheel drive. And we also kicked out Tommy and Cole. Love having them join us, of course, but to get the best 0 to 60 time, you need to actually be with just one driver. Now let's go ahead and see what we can get. I managed to get a signal here. We have the vehicle in its sport setting here. So let's go ahead and see the number. All right, we got 8.7 seconds there. Now, this car is struggling to put the power down because the roads are a little bit wet or damp, and we're in a front-wheel drive version. Let's try it one more time here. What's weird is the transmission is almost hesitating to shift into second gear there. Not really sure why it's doing that, but we got 8.68 seconds there. So we are, I want to notate, a mile above sea level at 4,700 feet. And that the fact that the transmission's kind of hesitating to shift there kind of shows that it's slowing the car down slightly. Let's try another run here. This time I'm going to take it out of sport mode for the transmission. It's still doing the same thing. there on that run, we got 8.37 seconds there. Now I'm leaving the traction control on, but I've never seen something where it's literally like hitting a wall and hesitating to shift into seconds. So not really sure if this is because it's an early pre-production car, but here at a mile above sea level, I expect this car to do 0 to 60 in under 8 seconds now. The old model took 8.2, but remember, with the increase in power, the less weight, it is nice to see that the powertrain there is delivering slightly better acceleration. So after spending the day driving the all-new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan, I have to say, I was a really big fan of the first generation Tiguan. The second generation I didn't love because, again, it was a lot slower and it wasn't as sporty as the old model. But this model, as you can see, you can clearly tell Volkswagen is trying to appeal back to the enthusiasts, but at the same time also keep the family people buying this car because of all the interior space and the upgraded tech. Volkswagen actually managed to sell a little over 94,000 Tiguans in the US last year, making this car its best-selling model. It is a far cry versus the 400,000 plus units that you see from like a Toyota RAV4 or a Honda CR-V. But I have to say, this powertrain, the 8-speed automatic is smooth, the 2-liter turbo has more power. Unfortunately, we are here driving at elevation, about 5,000 feet above sea level, so it is affecting the 0 to 60 time that we got. So I'll have to wait until I get one back home to retest it, because I got 8.2 seconds in the old model at sea level. I'm expecting this car to be in the, hopefully the low 7-second range, while that new upcoming turbo, I'm expecting it to be in the 6.5-second range. The ride quality also is surprisingly good. This vehicle just feels very refined. It feels like a step above a lot of its mainstream compact rivals, like you're buying a mid-size SUV as opposed to a compact. So I really like that feature because it feels like you're buying a more expensive vehicle than it actually is. The back seat is huge. The infotainment system is among the best. The massaging seats, again, are an unexpected surprise. And I also love the design of this vehicle because I think, for me personally, it's one of the best looking SUVs you're going to find in the segment. And this is a very cutthroat segment. The compact SUV segment has essentially replaced mid-size family sedans as the family vehicle of choice for many American families. Now, if you guys are looking to get your hands on the all-new Tiguan, these are actually heading to dealerships right now as we speak. And the price for this vehicle has actually it hasn't come down, but Volkswagen has kept it in check, because basically if you want to get into the base S trim with front-wheel drive, it starts at around $29,500. That's only about $600 more versus last year's version. And you guys saw it comes with a lot more equipment, a lot more power, a lot more technology, at around $1,500 if you guys want all-wheel drive. Now, most of you are probably going to step it up to the SE or the SEL R or SE R-Line Black. Those are going to be around $34,000 to around $36,000 for those trim. This SEL R-Line, however, the fully loaded version, starts at around $39,755. Add $1,400 for destination plus this color upcharge, which I don't have the pricing of the color upcharge. I'm estimating this car here is just under $42,000 for this loaded version here. I don't have final pricing on the SEL R-Line Turbo that's coming for 2026. I imagine that car is probably going to be in the mid $40,000 range, but still, just under 42 grand for this car with all the equipment that it has makes it around the same price or a little bit less expensive versus a lot of its rivals. So again, if you're okay with the fact that this doesn't have an electrified hybrid option, although we hear that Volkswagen is working on that, this is definitely one of the best gas options you're going to find, and it gives you a ton of features, especially for the money that Volkswagen is asking for this car. So with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2025 Volkswagen Tiguan. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.